original story narrated exclusively for Love Written in Silence. Dawn breaks over Wraithmore Castle, and Anna Whitfield watches the ninth carriage disappear down the gravel drive, taking with it the last of the women who arrived in silk and jewels only yesterday. She sits alone in the great hall, her hands folded in her lap, no means to leave and nowhere to go. When Gabriel Ashcroft, Duke of Wraithmore, descends the stairs expecting emptiness, he finds her still there, the schoolmaster's daughter who was never truly invited, left behind like forgotten luggage. He tells her the gathering is over. She tells him she would rather stay. He does not refuse, but the look in his eyes is not welcome. It is the flat assessment of a man who has stopped expecting anything from anyone. And in that moment, in a house built of silence and grief, something begins that neither of them intended. The last sound of hooves faded into the mist that clung to the hedgerows. Anna sat perfectly still on the wooden bench near the unlit fireplace, her traveling cloak still fastened at her throat. The great hall of Wraithmore Castle stretched around her like a cathedral built for ghosts. High windows let in pale September light that did nothing to warm the stone floor. Abandoned teacups sat on the sideboard, their contents long cold. 9 women had arrived yesterday afternoon in carriages, emblazoned with family crests. 9 had fled before the sun cleared the tree-line. Anna had come as Lady Phoebe Marden's companion, a last-minute addition squeezed into the carriage, with the hat boxes and the maid. She had not been formally invited. When Lady Phoebe woke at dawn and saw the castle in daylight, the overgrown gardens, the shuttered windows, the terrible quiet, she had ordered her things packed immediately. The other ladies followed like starlings wheeling at the sound of a gunshot. In the chaos of departure, no one remembered the schoolmaster's daughter sitting in the corner of the breakfast room, with her hands folded. Anna heard footsteps on the staircase. She did not turn. She had learned long ago how to sit in a room and make herself invisible. The Duke of Wraithmore descended into the great hall and stopped 3 paces from the bottom step. He was taller than she had expected, his dark hair threaded with gray at the temples. His coat was well-tailored but severe, no ornament, no color. He looked at her, the way a man might look at a piece of furniture left behind by the previous tenant. "The gathering is over," he said. "Yes, Your Grace, you should leave." Anna met his gaze. His eyes were gray, the color of the lake she had glimpsed from the carriage window. "I have no means to leave until market day." He studied her, not with interest, with the flat assessment of a man cataloging an inconvenience. "Then a carriage will be arranged." She stood. Her dress was plain wool, dark blue, mended at the cuffs. She was 26 years old, and had spent the last 3 years nursing her dying mother in a house where joy felt like betrayal. She recognized the silence in this castle. She knew what grief looked like when it had been given the keys to the entire house. "I would rather stay," she said. The Duke's expression did not change. He turned and walked toward the east corridor without looking back. His footsteps echoed on the stone until a door closed somewhere in the distance. Anna remained standing in the center of the great hall. He had not ordered the carriage. Mrs. Calloway appeared from the servants' passage, a woman of perhaps 50 with iron-gray hair and eyes that had learned caution. "Miss Whitfield," she said carefully, "His Grace has instructed me to prepare a room for you in the west wing. Thank you. You will take your meals in the small dining room. Breakfast at 8, supper at 6. And the Duke." Mrs. Calloway's mouth tightened. "His Grace takes his meals in his study." Anna nodded. She had expected nothing else. The room Mrs. Calloway led her to was clean but cold, the kind of cold that came from disuse, rather than season. A narrow bed, a writing desk, a window that looked out over the untended gardens. Anna set down her single bag and stood at the window. The grounds stretched toward a line of trees, and beyond them, just visible through the mist, the flat gray surface of a lake. "The west wing is quiet," Mrs. Calloway said from the doorway. "You will not be disturbed. May I walk the grounds?" The housekeeper hesitated. "You may go anywhere that is not locked." "And what is locked?" "The nursery wing, the east tower. The lakeside pavilion is gone entirely." Mrs. Calloway's voice was carefully neutral, but her hands gripped the doorframe. "His Grace values silence, Miss Whitfield. No music, no raised voices. The staff has learned to walk softly." Anna turned from the window. How long has it been this way? Mrs. Calloway's face closed like a door. 5 years. Will you require anything else? No, thank you. The housekeeper left without another word. Anna unpacked her few belongings and hung her second dress in the wardrobe. She had brought 3 books, a sewing kit, and the silver locket her mother had given her the week before she died. She fastened the locket around her neck and went downstairs. The castle revealed itself slowly. Corridors that turned without logic. Rooms shut up and sheeted. A music room with a pianoforte covered in dust, the lid closed and latched. A conservatory where dead vines clung to the glass. The library was the only room that showed signs of use. The fire was laid but not lit. Books lined the shelves in careful order, but the chairs were positioned as if no one had sat in them for years. Anna found a volume of poetry and carried it to the window seat. Outside, the garden sprawled in wild neglect. What had once been formal hedges now grew in tangled masses. A stone fountain stood dry in the center of an overgrown lawn. But near the edge of the gravel path, she noticed something odd. A small patch of earth, no larger than a writing desk, had been turned and weeded. Someone was tending it. She heard the door open behind her. The Duke stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. You are still here. You did not order the carriage, Your Grace. He crossed to the desk and picked up a letter that lay unopened. Mrs. Calloway tells me you asked about the locked rooms. I asked what was locked, not why. The distinction matters to you. Yes, he broke the seal on the letter and scanned its contents. His jaw tightened. My solicitor informs me that the gathering was a failure. 10 women invited. 10 women departed. The entail remains in jeopardy. Anna set down her book. I did not depart. You are a companion. You were not invited. No, but I am still here. He looked at her then, truly looked, as if seeing her for the first time. Why? She could have said, because I have no money for the post road. Because my father cannot afford the scandal of my unchaperoned presence here. But neither can he afford to fetch me, because I was left behind like a piece of luggage, and I have nowhere else to go. Instead, she said, because no one in this house has asked you how you are in 5 years. What followed was not empty. It was the kind of quiet that fills a room when a truth has been spoken that cannot be unspoken. The Duke placed the letter on the desk with great care. You know nothing about this house. I know it is full of grief. His eyes met hers, and for a moment she saw something flicker behind the gray. Not warmth, something closer to recognition. Then it vanished. You may use the library, he said. You may walk the grounds. You will not enter the locked rooms. You will not play the pianoforte. You will not ask the staff questions about matters that do not concern you. And if I do, then the carriage will be ordered. He left without waiting for her answer. Anna sat in the window seat until the light began to fade. She did not open her book again. She watched the gardens and the distant line of trees and the gray surface of the lake that no one approached. Somewhere in the east wing, a clock chimed the hour. The sound echoed through the empty corridors like a stone dropped into a well. That evening, she took her supper alone in the small dining room. Cold chicken, bread, cheese, a single candle. Mrs. Calloway brought the tray and left without speaking. Anna ate slowly, listening to the silence. It was not the silence of peace. It was the silence of a house holding its breath. After supper, she returned to the library. The fire had been lit, though she had not requested it. She sat in the chair nearest the hearth and opened her book. She had read 3 pages when she heard footsteps in the corridor. The Duke appeared in the doorway. He did not enter. He stood on the threshold, his face half in shadow. Why did Lady Phoebe bring you? He asked. She required a companion for the journey. I was available. And when she left, why did you not insist on accompanying her? Anna closed her book. She did not ask. You could have demanded it. I could have. I did not. He stepped into the room. The firelight caught the lines around his eyes, the shadows beneath them. You are either foolish or reckless. I am neither, Your Grace. I am deliberate. Deliberate. Yes. He crossed to the shelves and ran his hand along the spines of the books. What do you want from this house? Nothing you are not willing to give. And if I am willing to give nothing, then I will leave when the carriage is ready. He pulled a volume from the shelf and held it without opening it. My solicitor will return tomorrow. He will insist that arrangements be made. Your presence here is irregular. I am aware. It will cause talk. Yes, your father is a schoolmaster, Mrs. Calloway tells me. A man of reputation. This will harm him. Anna felt the words land like a blow, but she did not flinch. My father taught me that reputation is what others think of you. Character is what you are when no one is watching. The Duke set the book on the desk. You speak like someone who has lost something. I speak like someone who stayed when others left. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he turned and walked to the door. He paused on the threshold. The library key is in the top drawer of the desk, he said. You may go anywhere in this house that is not locked. He left before she could answer. Anna sat alone by the fire until it burned low. When she finally rose and crossed to the desk, she found the key exactly where he had said. It was iron-old, heavy in her hand. She slipped it into her pocket and climbed the stairs to her room. From her window, she could see a light burning in the east wing. It stayed lit until long after midnight. Anna woke to the sound of rain against the windows. The castle was gray in the early light, the mist thick over the gardens. She dressed and went downstairs. The great hall was empty, the fire unlit. She found her way to the small dining room and discovered a tray waiting. Porridge, toast, tea. Still no sign of Mrs. Calloway or any other servant. She ate quickly and returned to the library. The key was still in her pocket. She had not decided whether to use it. The rain continued through the morning. Anna explored the ground floor, testing doors. Most opened onto shuttered rooms filled with furniture draped in cloth. One door led to a chapel, the pews dusty, the altar bare. Another opened onto a conservatory where the glass was cracked and the air smelled of rot. She found the music room again and stood in the doorway. The pianoforte sat in the center of the room, like a monument to something lost. She did not enter. She remembered the Duke's instruction. No music. At midday, she returned to the library and found a fire burning in the hearth. Someone had been there while she was gone. A new book lay on the desk, a volume she had not seen before. She opened it and found an inscription on the flyleaf. To Charlotte, with love. The handwriting was masculine, careful. Anna closed the book and set it aside. She spent the afternoon reading by the fire. The rain slowed to a drizzle, then stopped. When the light began to fade, she heard voices in the entrance hall. She set down her book and went to investigate. The Duke stood near the door with a man she did not recognize. The stranger was older, perhaps 60, dressed in black with a leather satchel under his arm. Your Grace, the man was saying, the situation is untenable. Without an heir, the entail reverts in 2 years. The cousin will sell the estate. The tenants will lose everything. I am aware of the terms, Harding. Then you must act. Another gathering can be arranged. I have compiled a list of suitable candidates. No. The solicitor's voice sharpened. You cannot afford pride, Your Grace. The estate depends on this. I said no. Harding's gaze shifted and found Anna standing in the corridor. His eyes narrowed. And who is this? The Duke did not turn. Miss Whitfield. She was a guest at the gathering. She remains. For the present. Harding's expression turned cold. Your Grace, this is most irregular. An unchaperoned woman of no rank residing in your household. Miss Whitfield is a guest. She will leave when arrangements are made. And when will that be? When I decide. The solicitor opened his mouth to argue, then thought better of it. He inclined his head stiffly. As you wish, Your Grace. But I must advise you that delay serves no one. The clock is running. He left without acknowledging Anna. The Duke remained standing in the entrance hall, his back to her. The quiet stretched between them. You should not have been listening, he said finally. I was not hiding. No, you were not. He turned. His face was drawn, older than it had seemed the day before. Harding is correct. Your presence here is irregular. If word reaches your village, I know the consequences. Then why do you stay? Anna stepped into the hall. The light from the high windows cast long shadows across the stone floor. Because you have not asked me to leave. I told you a carriage would be arranged, but you have not arranged it. He looked at her with something close to frustration. You are stubborn beyond reason. You said that yesterday, and I still do not know if it is courage or madness. Anna moved closer. She could see the lines of exhaustion around his eyes, the tension in his shoulders. Why did you agree to the gathering, Your Grace? That is not your concern. You did not want to choose anyone. You wanted them all to leave. His jaw tightened. You presume too much. I observe. There is a difference. And what have you observed? A house where no one speaks above a whisper, where the music room is locked, and the gardens are dying, where the servants walk on tiptoe, and the master takes his meals alone. She paused. A house that has been grieving for a long time. The Duke's expression did not change, but his hands curled into fists at his sides. You know nothing about grief. I nursed my mother for 3 years, while she died by inches. I know what it looks like when a house becomes a tomb. The words hung between them. Get out, he said quietly. Anna did not move. I meant no offense, Your Grace. Get out. She turned and walked back to the library. She heard his footsteps retreat in the opposite direction, toward the east wing. A door slammed in the distance. Anna sat by the fire and waited for the anger to fade. It did not. Instead, it settled into something colder. She had pushed too far. Tomorrow, the carriage would be ordered. But the next morning, there was no carriage. Lady Cecily Ashcroft arrived on the 3rd day in a black barouche drawn by matched grays. Anna watched from the library window as the woman descended, her morning dress impeccable, her posture rigid. She was perhaps 40, handsome in a severe way, her dark hair streaked with silver. Mrs. Calloway appeared at the library door. Miss Whitfield. Lady Cecily requests your presence in the drawing room. Anna set down her book. Does the Duke know she is here? His Grace is in the East Wing. He has not been informed. Anna followed the housekeeper to the drawing room. Lady Cecily stood near the fireplace, her hands clasped, her expression one of barely controlled outrage. Miss Whitfield, she said without preamble, I am Lady Cecily Ashcroft, sister to the late Duchess. I have come to remove you from this house. Anna remained standing near the door. I was not aware I required removal. Your presence here is a scandal in the making. An unchaperoned woman of no rank, residing with a widowed duke. Do you have any idea what society will say? I have some idea. Then you understand why you must leave immediately. I have arranged a carriage. It will take you to the coaching inn. No. Lady Cecily's eyes widened. I beg your pardon. I will not be leaving, Lady Cecily. You will not. The woman's voice rose, then caught. She visibly controlled herself. Miss Whitfield, I do not think you comprehend the gravity of the situation. Your father is a schoolmaster, a man of modest means and reputation. If word spreads that his daughter remained unchaperoned at Raithmore, I am aware of the risk. Then why do you persist in this foolishness? Anna met her gaze. Because no one in this house has asked the Duke how he is in 5 years. Lady Cecily's face paled. You dare. I dare to stay because someone must. You arranged for 10 women to come here, and 10 women left. I am staying because I see what you do not. And what is that? That he is drowning. What came next was absolute. Lady Cecily's hands trembled. You know nothing about what this family has endured. I know enough. My sister died in this house. Her son. Lady Cecily's voice broke. She turned away. You are a stranger. You have no right. I have the right of someone who chooses to stay when others flee. Lady Cecily turned back, her eyes bright with anger. You think your presence here is kindness. It is presumption. Gabriel does not need your pity. I do not offer pity. I offer presence. He will send you away, perhaps, but he has not yet. Lady Cecily crossed to the door. She paused on the threshold. You will regret this, Miss Whitfield. When the scandal breaks, when your father loses his position, when you find yourself alone and ruined, you will remember that I offered you a way out. I will remember that you tried to remove me without asking what the Duke wanted. Lady Cecily left without another word. Anna heard the barouche depart minutes later, the hooves sharp on the gravel. She returned to the library and sat by the fire. Her hands were shaking. An hour later, the Duke appeared in the doorway. He did not enter. Cecily was here. Yes, she came to remove you. Yes, and you refused. Anna looked up from her book. I did. He stepped into the room. His expression was unreadable. Why? Because I choose to stay. Cecily is correct. Your presence here will cause a scandal. I know. Your father will suffer for it. I know that too. The Duke crossed to the window and stood with his back to her. You possess either uncommon bravery or uncommon recklessness. You have said that before, Your Grace, and I remain uncertain which is true. Anna set down her book. Does it matter? He turned. The light from the window fell across his face, and she saw something in his eyes she had not seen before. Not warmth, not welcome, but something closer to respect. Yes, he said quietly. It matters. He left without another word. That evening, Anna took her supper in the small dining room as usual. But when she returned to the library, she found a second chair drawn up to the fire. A glass of wine sat on the side table. The Duke was not there, but the message was clear. She sat in the chair and waited. He appeared just after 9, carrying a book. He sat in the chair opposite hers without speaking. They read in silence for an hour. When the clock chimed 10, he stood and left. Anna remained by the fire until the flames died to embers. She climbed the stairs to her room. From her window, she saw the light burning in the east wing. It stayed lit until well past midnight. But tonight, she noticed something she had not seen before. The light moved. Not the steady glow of a lamp left burning, but the flicker of someone carrying a candle through the corridors. She watched until the light disappeared. Then she turned away from the window and lay down in the dark, listening to the silence of a house that was beginning, slowly, to breathe again. The days settled into a pattern. Anna woke early and walked the grounds before breakfast. The gardens revealed themselves slowly. A rose arbor choked with briars, a kitchen garden gone to seed, a gravel path that led toward the lake before veering sharply away. She found the small patch of tended earth she had noticed from the library window. Someone had planted bulbs there, carefully spaced. The soil was freshly turned. She did not mention it to the Duke. They took their meals separately, but each evening he appeared in the library. They sat on opposite sides of the fire and read. Sometimes he asked her opinion on a passage. Sometimes she recommended a book. The conversations were brief, careful, but they were conversations. On the 5th day, she found him in the library in the afternoon. He stood at the desk, a letter in his hand, his face drawn. Harding writes that the cousin has made inquiries about the estate, he said without looking up. He is already making plans. Anna set down the book she had been shelving. And what will you do? There is nothing to be done. Without an heir, the entail reverts. The law is clear. The law requires an heir. It does not specify how you obtain one. He looked at her then. You speak plainly. I see no reason for evasion. Cecily would have me marry. Harding would have me marry. The entire county would have me marry. His voice was flat. They do not ask what I want. What do you want? He set down the letter. I want to be left alone. No, you do not. His eyes narrowed. You presume, I observe. If you wanted to be left alone, you would have ordered the carriage on the first day. You would have refused Cecily entry. You would not sit in this library every evening and read across the fire from a woman you did not invite. The quiet lengthened. Why are you here, Miss Whitfield? I told you. I choose to stay. That is not an answer. Anna crossed to the window. Outside, the mist was rolling in from the lake. I spent 3 years in a house where every sound felt like an intrusion, where laughter was a betrayal and joy was an insult to the dying. When my mother finally passed, I thought the silence would end, but it did not. It followed me. She turned to face him. I came to Wraithmore, and I recognized the silence. I know what it costs, and I know that no one survives it alone. The Duke stood very still. You think you can save me? No. I think I can stay with you while you save yourself. He crossed the room in 3 strides and stopped a pace away from her. She could see the gray of his eyes, the shadows beneath them, the tension in his jaw. You do not know what you are asking, he said. Then tell me. For a moment, she thought he would. His mouth opened. His hand lifted, as if to reach for her. Then he stepped back. Not yet, he said. He left her standing by the window. That night, Anna woke to the sound of footsteps in the corridor. She rose and opened her door, a crack. The Duke walked past carrying a candle, his face set. She waited until he had turned the corner, then followed. He led her through the east wing to a narrow corridor she had not yet explored. He stopped in front of a tall case clock that stood against the wall. The clock face read 3:47. As she watched, he reached up and wound the mechanism with slow, deliberate care. The ticking resumed, steady and relentless. He stood there for a long moment, his hand on the clock face. Then he turned and walked back the way he had come. Anna pressed herself into the shadows as he passed. He did not see her. She waited until his footsteps faded, then approached the clock. 3:47. The hands did not move. The mechanism ticked, but the time remained frozen. She returned to her room and lay awake until dawn, assembling the pieces of a truth she was beginning to understand. Lady Phoebe Marden returned on the 8th day, arriving in a carriage laden with trunks and a maid who looked terrified. Anna was in the garden when the carriage pulled up. She watched from behind the overgrown hedge as Lady Phoebe descended, her traveling dress spotless, her expression one of determined benevolence. Mrs. Calloway met her at the door. "Lady Phoebe, we were not expecting. I have come to collect Miss Whitfield. Is she well? Has she been treated properly?" "Miss Whitfield is in good health, my lady. I must see her at once." Anna stepped out from behind the hedge. "I am here, Lady Phoebe." Lady Phoebe turned, her eyes widening. "Anna, my dear girl, I have been beside myself with worry. When I realized we had left you behind, you realized on the 2nd day, my lady. It is now the 8th. Lady Phoebe's smile faltered. "Yes, well, there were arrangements to be made. But I am here now, and I have come to take you home. I am not going. I beg your pardon. I am staying at Raithmore." Lady Phoebe's expression shifted from benevolence to alarm. "Anna, you cannot be serious. The scandal is not your concern." "Of course it is my concern. You came here as my companion. Your reputation is my responsibility." Anna crossed the gravel path and stood before the woman who had brought her and forgotten her. "I came here as your companion. I remain here as a guest of the Duke." "The Duke?" Lady Phoebe's voice rose. "Anna, the man is half mad with grief. The entire county knows it. He has locked himself away for 5 years. He invites 10 women to his home and then ignores them all. You cannot possibly." "I can, and I have." Lady Phoebe stared at her. "You have changed. Yes, this place has done something to you. This place has allowed me to be myself." Lady Phoebe's face hardened. "You are making a terrible mistake. When this ends, and it will end, Anna, you will find yourself alone and ruined. No prospects, no position. Your father will be humiliated. My father taught me to choose character over reputation. Your father is a schoolmaster in a village of 200 souls. He has no idea what the world will do to a woman who defies convention. Then I will learn." Lady Phoebe turned toward the carriage, then stopped. "I came here to rescue you. I do not need rescuing. Everyone needs rescuing, Anna. Some of us are simply too proud to admit it." She climbed into the carriage without another word. The driver cracked the whip, and the carriage rolled down the drive. Anna stood in the gravel path and watched it go. Her hands were steady. Her heart was not. She turned and found the Duke standing in the doorway of the castle. He had been there the entire time. "You sent her away," he said. "Yes, she was your way out." "I know." He descended the steps and crossed the gravel to stand before her. "Why?" Anna met his gaze. "Because I am not looking for a way out." He reached out and took her hand. His fingers were warm, his grip firm. He did not speak. He simply held her hand for a long moment, then released it and walked back into the castle. Anna remained in the garden until the sun began to set. Then she went inside and found him in the library, sitting by the fire. She took the chair opposite his and opened her book. They read in silence until the clock chimed midnight. The storm came on the 10th night. Anna woke to the sound of wind howling through the eaves and rain lashing the windows. She rose and went to the window. Lightning split the sky over the lake, illuminating the gardens in stark white flashes. She heard a crash from somewhere above. Shouting, she pulled on her dressing gown and ran into the corridor. Mrs. Calloway appeared at the top of the stairs, her face pale. "The nursery roof has collapsed. Part of the ceiling has come down. Is anyone hurt?" "No, miss." "But the room," the housekeeper's voice broke. "His Grace has forbidden anyone to enter." Anna pushed past her and ran up the stairs to the 3rd floor. The nursery wing was in the north corner, a section of the castle she had not yet explored. She found the door at the end of a long corridor. It was locked. She heard footsteps behind her. The Duke appeared, his face white, his hands shaking. "Get away from that door," he said. "The roof has collapsed. The room will be ruined. I do not care." Anna tried the handle. It did not budge. "Give me the key." "No, Your Grace." I said no. She turned to face him. "What is in that room?" "Nothing that concerns you." Everything in this house concerns me now. His jaw clenched. You have no right. I have the right of someone who stayed when everyone else fled. I have the right of someone who has sat across the fire from you for 10 nights and watched you carry your grief like a stone. Give me the key. He stared at her. Lightning flashed, illuminating his face. She saw rage there, and fear, and something deeper that had no name. You do not know what you are asking, he said. Then show me. He pulled the key from his pocket and held it out. His hand trembled. Anna took the key and unlocked the door. The nursery was a child's world preserved in amber. A small bed with a blue coverlet. Wooden soldiers lined up on a shelf. Drawings pinned to the wall. Crayon sketches of horses and castles. And a man with a kind face. A rocking horse in the corner, its paint faded. And in the center of the room, a gaping hole in the ceiling where the rain poured through, soaking the carpet, dripping onto the small desk where a child's primer lay open. Anna stepped into the room. The Duke remained on the threshold. Come in, she said. I cannot. Yes, you can. She crossed to the desk and began gathering the drawings from the wall, pulling them free before the water could reach them. The Duke stood frozen in the doorway. Help me, Anna said. He did not move. Your Grace, help me save them. He stepped over the threshold. It was the smallest movement, but it cost him everything. Anna saw it in the way his breath caught, the way his hands curled into fists. They worked in silence, pulling drawings from the walls, moving books and toys to the dry corner of the room. The rain poured through the ceiling, cold and relentless. When the last drawing was safe, Anna turned and found the Duke sitting on the small bed, holding the blue coverlet in his hands. He was shaking. Anna crossed the room and sat beside him. She did not speak. She placed her hand on his back and waited. His name was Thomas, the Duke said finally. His voice was barely audible over the rain. He was 4 years old. What happened? He drowned. The words came out flat, drained of all emotion. In the lake, I was on the terrace, 30 yards away, discussing drainage rights with a magistrate. His nurse turned away for a moment. He walked into the water after a toy. I heard her scream. By the time I reached him, his voice broke. By the time I reached him, it was too late. Anna's hand remained on his back. She did not move. She did not offer comfort. She simply sat beside him in the wreckage of his son's room and let him speak. Charlotte died 18 months later. Fever. But the household said grief killed her first. She could not forgive me. I could not forgive myself. He looked down at the coverlet in his hands. I locked this room the day after her funeral. I have not entered it in 5 years. Until tonight. Until tonight. Anna took the coverlet from his hands and folded it carefully. You have been winding the clock. He looked at her sharply. How did you? I followed you. 3 nights ago. I saw you wind the clock in the corridor, the one that reads 3:47. The hour they pulled him from the water. Yes, he stood and crossed to the window. The rain was slowing. Every night for 5 years, I have wound that clock. I do not know why. It does not bring him back. It does not change what happened. But I cannot stop. Anna rose and joined him at the window. Grief is not something you stop. It is something you learn to carry. I do not know how. Neither did I. But I learned. He turned to face her. His eyes were red, his face drawn. How? By letting someone stay with me while I figured it out. He reached out and touched her face, his fingers gentle against her cheek. You should not be here, and yet I am. You should not have stayed, and yet I did. He leaned forward and rested his forehead against hers. They stood that way for a long moment, the rain falling softly outside, the room around them filled with the remnants of a child's life. Say his name, Anna whispered. Thomas. Again. Thomas. She took his hand. Moment. We need to cover the hole in the roof before more rain gets in. They worked until dawn, draping canvas over the collapsed section, moving the furniture to safety, salvaging what they could. When the light began to creep through the windows, the Duke stood in the center of the room and looked around. I thought opening this door would destroy me, he said. And did it? No, he looked at her. It did not. They left the nursery together. The door remained open behind them. For 3 days, the Duke did not appear. Anna took her meals alone. The library fire went unlit. Mrs. Calloway delivered trays with her eyes downcast and left without speaking. On the 4th day, Lady Cecily returned. Anna was in the garden when the carriage arrived. This time, Lady Cecily was not alone. A man in a dark coat accompanied her, carrying a leather case. Mrs. Calloway found Anna near the rose arbor. Miss Whitfield, Lady Cecily has requested your presence. She has brought Mr. Finch, a solicitor. Anna followed the housekeeper to the drawing room. Lady Cecily stood near the fireplace, her expression grim. The solicitor sat at the writing desk, papers spread before him. Miss Whitfield, Lady Cecily said, I have come to make the situation clear. Your continued presence here is damaging not only your own reputation, but that of your father. Mr. Finch has drafted a letter to be sent to the parish council, detailing your unchaperoned residence at Raithmore. Unless you leave immediately, that letter will be posted tomorrow. Anna remained standing near the door. You would ruin my father to force my hand. I would protect this family from scandal by creating one. Lady Cecily's eyes flashed. You are a schoolmaster's daughter who has inserted herself into a household of rank. You have no place here. Gabriel is not in his right mind. He cannot see what you are doing. And what am I doing, Lady Cecily? You are taking advantage of a grieving man. Anna crossed the room and stood before the older woman. I am staying with a grieving man while he learns to live again. There is a difference. You are a fool if you think this will end well, perhaps, but it is my choice to make. Mr. Finch cleared his throat. Miss Whitfield, I must advise you that the consequences of remaining here are severe. Your father's position, your own prospects, are mine to risk. Lady Cecily's voice turned cold. Then you leave me no choice. The letter will be posted. Anna felt the weight of the threat settle over her. Her father's livelihood, his reputation, everything he had built in the village, gone because of her choice. She thought of the Duke sitting on his son's bed, holding the blue coverlet. She thought of the clock wound every night at 3:47. She thought of the nursery door standing open for the first time in 5 years. Do what you must, Anna said. I am staying. Lady Cecily's face paled. You are making a terrible mistake. That is my decision to make. The older woman turned to Mr. Finch. Draft the letter. We leave within the hour. Anna left the drawing room and climbed the stairs to her room. She sat on the bed and stared at the wall. Her hands were shaking. She had just destroyed her father's life. An hour later, she heard the carriage depart. She did not go to the window to watch. That evening, she packed her bag. She had lost. Lady Cecily had one. Her father would be ruined, and she had no choice but to leave before the damage spread further. She carried her bag downstairs and set it near the front door. Then she walked through the castle. Last time. The library, the music room, the gardens, the corridor where the clock stood frozen at 3:47. She stopped at the clock and placed her hand on the glass face. She had stayed as long as she could. She had done what she came to do, but it was not enough. She walked down the gravel drive toward the gate. The mist was thick, the air cold. She reached the gate and stopped. Behind her, the castle rose against the gray sky. She thought of the Duke locked in the east wing, refusing meals, refusing company. She thought of the nursery with its open door. She thought of the small patch of tended earth in the garden. She had assembled the truth from 100 small observations. The clock, the garden, the nursery, the staff's fearful silence. She knew what had happened at the lake. She knew why every room was silent. And she knew where the Duke would go if he finally broke. Anna turned away from the gate. She did not return to the castle. She walked toward the line of trees, toward the flat gray surface of the water. The lake was smaller than it had seemed from the castle windows. The water was dark, perfectly still. A wooden dock extended into the shallows, its boards rotted and sagging. The grass at the water's edge was overgrown, tangled with weeds. Anna stood at the water's edge and waited. She did not have to wait long. The Duke appeared through the mist, walking slowly, his hands in his pockets. He stopped when he saw her. You should not be here, he said. Neither should you. He crossed the grass and stood beside her, looking out over the water. How did you know I would come? Because I know what it looks like when someone is about to break. He was silent for a long moment. Then he said, Cecily sent you a letter, threatening your father. Yes, you were leaving. Yes, why did you stop? Anna turned to face him. Because I realized something. You have been coming to this lake every night for 5 years, haven't you? He did not answer. You wind the clock at 3:47. You tend the garden patch where Thomas planted bulbs. You lock the nursery and forbid music and walk on tiptoe through your own house. You have turned this entire estate into his coffin. Her voice hardened. That is not grief, your grace. That is tyranny. His head snapped toward her. How dare you? How dare I? Anna stepped closer. How dare you? You have imprisoned every person in this house in your guilt. The servants are terrified. The gardens are dying. The tenants will lose their land, because you cannot bear to let anyone past the walls you built to punish yourself. You know nothing about what I have lost. I know you lost your son. I know it was terrible, and it was not your fault. And I know you have spent 5 years making everyone around you pay for it. He stared at her, his chest heaving. Get out. No, get out of my sight, no. He turned away from her, his hands curling into fists. You have no right to speak to me this way. I have every right. I stayed when everyone else fled. I sat with you in that nursery. I watched you wind that clock. I know what you are doing to yourself, and I will not stand by and let you do it anymore. He spun back toward her, his face white with rage. You think you can save me? You think your presence here makes any difference? You are a schoolmaster's daughter who has inserted herself into a life that does not belong to her. You are nothing. Anna slapped him. The sound echoed across the water. They stood facing each other, both breathing hard. The Duke's hand rose to his cheek. His eyes were wide, shocked. I am not nothing, Anna said quietly, and neither are you. But you have been acting like you are for 5 years. You have been so busy punishing yourself that you have forgotten everyone else who loved him. Your wife, your servants, the tenants who depend on you. You have locked them all out because you cannot forgive yourself for being human. The Duke's face crumpled. The rage drained out of him all at once, leaving only raw, uncontrolled grief. He sank to his knees on the grass, his hands covering his face. I should have been watching him, he said, his voice breaking. I should have been watching. Anna knelt beside him. Yes, you should have, and you were not. And he died. And it is terrible, but it is not unforgivable. Charlotte never forgave me. Charlotte was grieving. People say things they do not mean when they are drowning. He looked up at her, his face wet. I do not know how to stop. Stop what? Punishing myself. I do not know how to live without the guilt. Anna took his hands. You start by saying his name without it destroying you. I cannot. Yes, you can. Thomas. Again, Thomas. His voice cracked. Again, Thomas. Softer now. Again, Thomas. They sat on the grass at the water's edge as the light changed. Anna held his hands and made him say his son's name over and over until the word became just a word, until it no longer carried the weight of 5 years of grief. When he finally stopped shaking, he looked at her. Why did you stay? Because I recognized the silence. I know what it costs, and I know that no one survives it alone. You should have left. Cecily will ruin your father. Let her try. Anna, I am not leaving. Not now, not ever. You can send me away, but I will come back. You can lock the doors, but I will wait outside. You can wind that clock every night for the rest of your life, but I will be there in the morning to ask you how you are. He reached up and touched her face. You possess a courage I have never known. No, I'm just the one who stayed. He leaned forward and kissed her. It was not gentle. It was fierce, desperate, the kiss of a man who had been drowning and had finally found air. Anna kissed him back, her hands tangling in his hair, her heart pounding. When they finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. I do not deserve you. You do not get to decide that. Anna, I choose you. That is all that matters. They sat together on the grass until the sun began to set over the water. Then they rose and walked back to the castle, hand in hand. The nursery door stood open. The clock in the corridor ticked steadily, but the hands no longer froze at 3:47. The gardens were still overgrown, but the small patch of earth near the gravel path had been expanded. Anna played a simple melody on the pianoforte, her fingers hesitant on the keys. It was the first music in Raithmore in 5 years. The Duke stood in the doorway of the music room, listening. When she finished, he crossed the room and sat beside her on the bench. Play it again, he said. She did. He rested his hand on hers. Thomas loved music. Then we will fill this house with it. They sat together as the light faded, the sound of the pianoforte drifting through the corridors. Upstairs, The nursery door stood open. Thomas's drawings hung in simple frames along the corridor wall. The blue coverlet had been folded and placed in a chest at the foot of the Duke's bed. The great hall at dawn was no longer empty. A fire burned in the hearth. The windows were open, letting in the morning air. The staff moved through the corridors without fear, their footsteps no longer muffled. Anna stood at the window, looking out over the gardens. The Duke came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. "Lady Cecily sent word," he said. "She has withdrawn her threats. She will not send the letter." "Why?" "Because I told her that if she did, I would cut off all contact with her family. She loved Charlotte. She loves this estate. She will not risk losing both." Anna leaned back against him. "And what will you tell the solicitor? About the entail?" "I will tell him that I intend to marry, that I have found someone who sees me for who I am, not who I was." "And who are you?" "A man learning to live again." She turned in his arms and kissed him. "Then we will learn together." The sun rose over Raithmore, burning away the mist. The gardens stretched toward the lake, and for the first time in 5 years, the water did not look gray. It looked silver. 9 women had fled this castle at dawn. 1 woman had stayed, and in staying, she had opened every locked door, challenged every silence, and taught a grieving man that love was not something you earned through penance. It was something you chose. Every day, again and again, and she had chosen him. The story ended where it began, in the great hall at dawn. But everything had changed.